Well, I moved here on the 19th of December, 1984, and on about the 24th of September, 25th of September, a policeman, I've always made my business to keep in with the police, I love them, told me that a man had been found dead under a bush. There was lots of snow on the ground. And I said, but why? Where were his family? Where were his friends? Why wasn't he in hospital? The policeman said, I don't know. Nobody knows him. And I thought, how terribly sad. So the next day I left all this place under dust sheets and did 6 months research. I didn't live under dust sheets all the time. I gradually got straight, but I did 6 months research with the police, social services, and all over the place, but especially with far more men than I imagine now. I've been down into town for 2 years since an accident, but I don't think they eat out. We have one that eats out of bins, and he comes to us also. He's lovely. But then a lot of people were eating out of bins. They had ice cream papers licking for a treat. They had half-eaten sandwiches which they would pick out. And I would go and speak to them, and they would say, and I would say, sorry, I just wondered whether you were enjoying it. Okay, okay. And others would go like that. And I thought, they're frightened of me. But I persevered, and after a wee while, I managed to make 4 friends. They didn't know, none of them knew each other's names. Um, they didn't know each other at all. Nobody talked to anybody. They were very, very lonely. But I did manage to make 4 friends, first one and then two, and then another one tagged along, and then another one tagged along. And then we used to sit on a windowsill looking down Clayton Street. There was a cafe there, and it's not there now. I used to take out cups of tea, and we had them together. One day I said, how about looking to see if we can find somewhere where we can all be together? Well, we didn't at first. We went outside Christ Church. We asked the vicar, the St. Dominic's, and all the rest of it, permission everywhere to sit on nobody's toes. And we got there. I brought down some soup and some bread. This was an innovation. There were 4 of them, the 4 still. And I said, they'd finished their soup. I said, you want some more? You're hungry? So off I went. They didn't speak. So off I went, and I said, well, in half an hour I'll be back with some more soup. I've got some at home, okay? So you keep my wireless, and I'll be back. They kept my wireless, and they were still playing it when I came back, which I thought was pretty good. Of course, the social services told me not to go alone. Of course, they told me not to take my wireless. But I thought well, to me, it's my own responsibility, and they were lovely. And the next time down there, next 2 times, there were a few more and a few more not talking to each other, but saying thank you and please and so on. And then I said, now we've got to, this was the beginning of May. I started the first weekend in May of 1985. And I said, look, we must find a roof for our heads because it was going to be a bad summer soon. I mean, it was a wonderful May that was. And so we all set off together. And as we went, more and more and more came out of their house. And I think there might have been about 20 or 30 of them by the time we ended. And we went onto the city walls, and there were trees up there, little, perhaps big bushes. Maybe they're still, or they may have been cut down, I don't know. But there was people had been sleeping under there. And made a note of that. And then we found this big arch just below the Dean Street. And we opened up there. We very soon had about 60. And there's one thing that I'd really love to say, because most people, they are not so much now, but they were rejected and despised as no good. As it's not so. They've had hard lives, most of them. They've been brought up in care or one-parent families, lots of tragedies, and nobody to help them over them. But when my very precious actor son was killed by a drunken driver after we'd been at it about 2 years, nobody local came and saw me except the vicar for a little while. Nobody else came and saw me at all. I went to the People's Theatre to sell programs. They all went in at the other door. I didn't sell one, and so on. And I felt quite lonely. It was 10 days before we could have the funeral because he had been killed by this driver, and they had to have to have an inquest. And on the Monday morning of the funeral, I came out of my front door, meaning to go down to the run, and the Chronicle met me at the door. And they said, "Oh, we wanted to interview you." And I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm going down to Dean Street." And they said, "But you buried your son today." And I said, "Yes, but life goes on." And I said, "Good night." And I went off. And when I arrived, there was no car park then. It was a big field where we parked. And I thought, oh my goodness, because there were 60 or so by that time, perhaps a few more, standing in a queue. And so I went to park my car at the front of the queue, and I thought, what's happened? And I climbed out and leant against the car, smiled at them, and they came up one by one and kissed me on the cheek gently. "Sorry, Alison, sorry, Alison, sorry, Alison." And at the end, they had 2 minutes silence for Richard, and then one of them sang a Scottish lament for Richard, and I was very much comforted.